Welcome back to the channel. In this video, I'm going to discuss the basics of what you need to know to put your loved one to rest, whether that's burying them or cremating them. First off, it doesn't matter if you are the executor of the estate or a member of the immediate family. This is going to be one of the roughest experiences of your entire life. You're going to learn who cares about you and the person you lost during the next few days or weeks of this process. Now, this is not a bad thing, but a good thing, and it will make you stronger in the long run. People tend to avoid the topic of death like the plague as if it is something that is contagious. Well, it kind of is because we all experience it firsthand ourselves, but also, unless we're hermits in the woods or mountains, and we never socialize with family or friends, we will have someone we know go through to the next plane of existence before us, or as Betty White has said, know the secret. Therefore, we will have to handle their remains in some way. Hopefully the person did some life planning activities and has already handled most of their arrangements, such as knowing if they wanted to be buried or cremated, what casket or urn, or maybe urns, where they would like their remains to be put, cemetery or not, celebration, something big or low key, and the big one, did they put funds aside for everything? If they didn't, this is going to be like packing for a trip that you have no idea what is the duration, where, or what you'll be doing. And if it is the latter, well, I feel for you, but you will get through it. And unfortunately, it is going to be a massive struggle and a big burden that is going to be like no other in your entire life. I think it's best to go over some of the basics with you so you can understand what financially is going to happen and therefore be ready for it. And perhaps you'll know that you should maybe do some life planning on your own. You can, just by you looking over these videos and discussing this aspect, well, you might have a chance to get some things a little bit better than others. At the time of this video, whether it is a burial or cremation, you're going to spend anywhere between $8,000 to $40,000 or more just on the burial or cremation cost. Now that cost includes casket or urns, service, opening the grave, the cost of the minister, chaplain, rabbi, or imam. It doesn't necessarily include the headstone, the footstone, or plantings. And if they went down the burial route, that could be in another $8,000 to $10,000 or more. And there still is the cost of the cemetery for them just charging for the burial site or the plot of land that the person will go. These costs are something that are not negotiable really after a person passes on, and they become what they are. So you, as being a member of the immediate family, will need to figure out how to cover them if they haven't been covered already. If you are the executor and your family puts all the burden on you, well, then this is going to be even harder. Like I said, you're going to find out a lot about people during this process. And I'm going to be honest, you and or your family may want to do more than they can to attempt to honor the departed's wishes. But if the funding, the ability to lay it out, or there is no way to put things on a payment plan, then that's not possible. Things will need to be scaled back because you'll be putting yourself on the track towards going beyond your means and leading to you filing for bankruptcy. And especially if they left nothing and you don't have enough, you're potentially already on that track to begin with. Now you might be saying, but the estate should have money for this. Or I'll get something from Social Security. Well, if the estate prepared for final expenses, yes, maybe, otherwise no. And yes, Social Security will give something toward the final expenses, but at the time of this video, it's approximately $255. So you can already see that doesn't go very far at all. Now, I'm sorry if I'm scaring you, but this is the reality of the situation. And even those commercials from insurance companies like Colonial Penn that help with final expenses do not do this part of loss handling any justice. Think about it this way. The person that passed might have purchased funeral insurance, an annuity, or life insurance to help with final expenses. However, often you don't know or you don't have access to these funds until producing a death certificate, or even know they exist until weeks or months after they pass. Additionally, final expenses can go to multiple locations or multiple companies, not just one company, so that might be difficult too. And depending on the insurance plan or places you might be working with, they might not accept having a policy paid for their services directly unless they were previously notified that they were going to be a named beneficiary on a funeral policy. Honestly, the best thing would be is if the person has set up a funeral trust or an annuity that was coordinated with the funeral home and the cemetery or place that would be handling the cremation, and picked out everything ahead of time. But honestly, that is often not the case. So now that I've scared you a little bit more, let's get to the meat and potatoes of everything. If your loved one didn't discuss their final wishes with you or didn't name someone as executor of the will, then the family will hopefully come together and work through things together, because the burial is going to be the tip of the iceberg of what is going to come next if no one was named as executor and there is no will. But all of that is for another video. If the person lost was a child, someone in the military during combat, a victim of a crime, and potentially there is no remains, they were lost in an accident or during an activity where there is not just the loss, but an investigation into the loss, and possibly that investigation took months or years to discover what happened, or is still going on while you're planning the arrangements, or the person that passed was an estranged member of the family. Well, every single one of these is a different challenge that is beyond someone just passing in their sleep. For this, I'm really sorry. I'm honestly, truly sorry for what you're going through. You're going to need to be strong to go through this phase of the process. And if the person was estranged from the rest of the family, well, you'll need to determine the level of effort you guys want to put in and what you want to do. You might be asking yourself, well, if they didn't care what happened to them after they left this world, why don't I just put them into a potter's field? Well, that's your choice if you want to use a potter's field and work with the state or county to put them into an unmarked mass grave if you wish. But that might place some different emotional stuff with you in the long run if you do that. So you'll need to think about that. Now, with all this said, let's walk through the order of events so you can put things into perspective. After someone passes, the emergency contact will be notified. No matter if it is someone finding out the person passed in their home, a doctor telling a person in the waiting room after a surgery, a police officer, a military representative calling or telling you in person. Someone will contact the person they know to be an emergency contact or next of kin. That emergency contact will most likely be in shock, just as the person who is speaking to them, if it's not a professional trained to handle these kind of notifications or does them often. You, as the emergency contact, if you're the first to get the news, will need to process it and then start the notification tree, whether that's by phone, electronically, or what have you, including the executors of the estate if you or someone else you know is not both the emergency contact and the executor. If you are the immediate family, and definitely if you are the executor of the estate, you are going to hear the following a lot. Is there anything you need? Or is there anything I can do to help? The honest answer will potentially be from you is, I don't know. And that's okay, but you're going to need help. And even if it is just emotional support or logistical help, you are going to need it. You're also going to have friends or close family who will try to be there for you in some way. Some of these questions from people will start to happen too. Need anything or need help? Because they're trying to be nice or polite. So they don't feel like they didn't ask even though they didn't want to be bothered. If they've gone through the process already, or potentially if they've watched this video, they may know that it's better to say something like, I'm here to help. I've been in your position before, and I know there's a lot on your plate right now. If you need me to make calls, get prices, watch your pet, pick something up from their place or yours or someone of, I'm there to help. You will next either have to identify the body or coordinate the handling of the body. With identifying the body, this may be the most awkward so far during this experience, besides having to have the reality sink in that they've passed on. But you're going to need to decide what to do with their remains and what will happen. If they passed away at home, and there are religious observations, such as in Judaism, where the body is to be put in the ground within 24 to 72 hours, it is possible to skip this step. But otherwise, under most circumstances, the coroner, medical examiner, ME, or another doctor will perform an autopsy to provide the reason of passing while they're working on the death certificate. Now, the emergency contact or next of kin will need to work with the ME or doctor to provide details to go on to the death certificate. So things like next of kin's name and details, social security information about the departed, residence, etc. They will also need to discuss whether or not the body should be embalmed or not. It will be important to ask for at least 5 to 10 official copies of the death certificate, as those will be needed by the executors of the will or anyone who will be helping with the activities related to the estate. Besides copies that can go to the beneficiaries so that they can file claims for any TOD or POD accounts, which again we'll discuss in more detail in different videos. The body itself will either go to a morgue or a funeral home directly, depending on the person's religious customs and what they already set up. In the case of a Jewish person, the body is typically brought directly or at some point to a funeral home where it is cleaned and then watched after by someone day and night, saying prayers until the service and their burial, ensuring the neshama knows its body is protected until it reaches its final resting place. If the loved one's remains need to be transported, the person that is saying these prayers will go in the car and will fly with the remains until it gets to the final chapel and again laid to rest. All of this coordination needs to occur. So hopefully the person left instructions. Otherwise, you're going to get stressed and make things up as you go. And it doesn't matter whether it's a Jewish person or a Muslim or some other religion that has similar customs. Hopefully they left everything and took care of everything to help you out. If you're going with a cremation route, that needs to get organized as well to know whether or not all the ashes are going into one urn or container or multiple urns to be divided amongst immediate family or other family members. If you or they are destitute, or you believe the body is an empty vessel now and no big arrangements or planning is needed, so you choose a potter's field, well, then you'll need to arrange and discuss that as well. These fill up and they are located in the most inconvenient places in the city or state. You are going to next work on any service arrangements. Are you going to have anything for them? Graveside, a chapel, some meeting place, or nothing at all? If services, open or closed casket. Some of this is going to come down to cost, their wishes, religious customs you wish to observe, and potentially when everyone can get together. Depending on the religion, there may be a wake or a couple of wakes first, then burial and cremation. A wake with a photo, and the cremation has already occurred, besides other customs. This also might mean scheduling dates to ensure family members can arrive if they live far away. Once these basics are handled, you're going to need to decide if you're looking to have people come back to a person's home, a family member's place, or a restaurant for a meal after the service. Deciding if the family is going to be paying for everybody's meals or everybody should bring something. Or it's just going to be everybody's allowed to come, but only certain people are going to be paid for by family funds. Once the service and arrangements are made, it then comes time to go back through the notification tree and let everyone know when and where things will occur. If the person being called has a role to play, then they need to know what it is and where they need to go. This may be just what home they will be staying at if they live far away, or if they need to travel and get a hotel, if they're going to be riding in a limo or in a specific car, where the procession begins, things like that. It also includes if they are welcome to attend the meal after the service and the expectations. If you are having a service, coordinating potentially photos being blown up and framed and flower arrangements may also need to be ordered and delivered to the service location. At some point, you will need to notify your work and their job of the person's passing, if they had a job. With your job, you will need to let them know or attempt to get bereavement time off, take PTO, or coordinate time off of some kind, even if it is unpaid. This honestly is going to be the first signal of whether or not you are about to lose your job, or if you're going to start looking for a new job after things are completed. Depending on how they react will determine if they care at all, or they care enough to give you a few days, 10 days, or nothing. You will also see if they start having an issue about making sure a project is completed on time, irrespective of your loss. Based on how work handles the notification, or where you are in perspective of where your loved one is located, you may need to take a trip for the initial identification or coordination besides other trips for the services. If you're not permitted to work remotely or just have time off, to work on planning the preparation. Now that we've discussed the preparation for putting them to rest, we need to discuss the activities themselves. If you are the immediate family, you need to be at the service not on time but early. This is so that the people that are going to meet you and pay their respects actually see you. So be there at least 15 to 30 minutes early. Being early is so important for another reason. If you are having a service of any kind, whether it's graveside, chapel, wake, or other event, you're going to need to settle the bill. Yes, that's right. You're going to need to come up with the funeral or final expenses associated with using the chapel and the workers. They will include the tips and gratuities, so you don't have to worry about that, but you're going to need to pay them. So if you don't have the funds available in cash or in a checking account, they will most likely take a credit card or multiple cards, but you're going to need to pay them. So unless something changes, they're not going to want any crypto, stock tips, or anything else, just payment in the country's current currency. So like in the States, US dollars. And unless the account or the estate had, or the person themselves had put together a funeral trust, you're going to need to have funds available to come up with it right there on the spot. Arriving early will also give you time to have a private moment to review with the rabbi, the minister, imam, or the service conductor, who might be saying a few words if you thought of any, or if you would rather they summarize something that you want to say because you or someone else is not feeling up to speaking. Depending on the religion, there is the potential for another identification that may be performed by the immediate family. This is often done in Judaism as a way to verify the person being buried is the person intended to be buried. Now, I'm not sure how that all got started, and maybe back in the day there was questions about people faking their death or burying the wrong person. However, from what I've seen and learned, it is also to make sure that the person truly has passed before putting them to rest. Because embalming doesn't happen in Judaism, and I'm not sure if in the Islamic religion as well, but for the most part I know it occurs a lot in Christianity. The body starts to decay, so depending on the situation, this may be something that might be difficult for an immediate family member or any family member that wants to participate in this practice, as it can be difficult to see and then remember the person in this state versus the last time you saw them. The immediate family tends to sit in the front row in a chapel and closest to the gravesite when there's a graveside service. Friends and family pay their respects to the immediate family. Depending on the religious beliefs, the immediate family may wear a piece of black cloth that will be eventually torn to symbolize the tear the person's passing had caused. Everyone tends to be dressed in black. So with men wearing a black or a white shirt and a black tie. Shoes can be sneakers or comfortable attire. Young children may or may not attend, but it is something that they need to understand eventually, so don't hide mortality from them. Saying someone has gone to a farm or another place will mean eventually you will need to have a conversation with them to help them understand why the person is no longer around. Try your best to not let family fights and arguments interrupt the service or event. This is not about you or the other family member. It is about you and them paying respect to someone that has passed on. Military personnel or any fraternal organizations or lodges they may have been a member of while they were alive may have special additional rituals and customs they do during services or during the burial of the fallen. If this is known, make sure this is coordinated as best as possible beforehand so it is not a surprise the day of the service. And lastly, let the rabbi, minister, imam, or chapel leader guide you through the service. That is what they're there to do, so let them support you. If a burial is chosen at some point, family and friends will make their way to the gravesite. They will gather at the site where words and prayers will be spoken. If family and friends wish, they will be provided a shovel to help bury the person. In Judaism, and for my brethren of Masonry, this is done using the back of the shovel to pick up the dirt versus the front or scoop portion. This is because we are not creating something, but returning the body back to the earth. This makes it more difficult to put dirt on the casket, but it is meant to be that way, so you take your time. You don't have to do a lot, but there is symbolism in it that you are helping to put the person to rest. I want to provide you with a tradition that I have now done for both my mother and my father, and I've had assistance from family members and friends to do it. In my view, the casket should be fully covered by family members and friends, not by any workers at the cemetery. This does not mean fully filling the hole, just fully covering the casket. Now, this is because to the workers, the person has no meaning to them. It is their job to dig the hole. But to us mourners, this was our mother, our father, our brother, our sister, grandparent, great-grandparent, friend, or a child. Having this symbolism that we took the time to lay them to rest and that no one else put dirt directly on their casket, at least to me, is an important symbol of loving and caring. After the service, it might have been arranged to have a meal for close friends and immediate family. This is important to start the healing process and to have something in your system because depending on how things occurred, you might not have eaten or drank anything all day or potentially in a couple of days. And well, you need to have food so you can live on. This is also a time for family and friends to talk about the person and catch up with you, so take advantage of it. There is a saying that family doesn't always get together unless it's for a birthday, wedding, or a funeral. Use the time to reconnect and try to heal old wounds wherever possible. I know this was a rough video to watch. It was a difficult one for me to put this together, but it is important to share this with you because one doesn't know about the behind the curtain things that really happen until the loss happens. Honestly, I recommend doing life planning for yourself and discuss this topic with your loved ones. I will have life planning videos to help you with preparing for this event, so it is not a heavy burden on your descendants, family, and friends. Also, consult with a minister, rabbi, imam, or other religious persons so you can make sure that you do things properly if you want to follow your religious beliefs. Making sure that you know someone to help with the service for when it is your loved one's time, as well as your own. As always, like, subscribe, and share with anyone you feel can benefit from this information. Also, feel free to leave any comments and I will try to answer them the best I can. Depending on what comments are left, it might mean I'll need to create additional videos to explain them, so feel free to ask away.